In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make the engine of the toy train. So let's get started. I'm going to open up my waffle. I'm going to make sure, yes, I'm in my toy train folder. So that's what you want to do first, make a toy train folder. I'm going to close up my waffle. Now I'm going to put two canvases on this so I can kind of see the dimensions that I don't have to keep looking back and forth, and you're going to be able to see the dimensions also. So I'm going to go to Insert Canvas. Now I've taken two pictures of the drawings. So there's my first one. I'm going to put it right over here and I'm going to look flat at this and I'm going to move it up and out of the way. I don't want it in my way. So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so I can see what's going on. And we'll pull it over here a little bit and maybe I'll make it a little bit bigger. And then I want to make sure I get it out of the way. I don't want to be in this area. So there's my first picture. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to put another canvas in. So I'm going to go back to Insert Canvas because there is a second picture for the train engine. And I'm going to grab it right there. I'm going to put it on that sketch. Now I'm going to put this one below the one I currently have. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so you can see what's going on. And we'll make it a little bit bigger. And I'm going to slide it up. Now I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to flip this up or in reverse because when I use these numbers, I'm going to be the back side of this train. So I'm going to put it in reverse. So I'm going to hit OK. So now I want to start my train engine. So I'm going to put a new sketch on. We're on the front view. Now I want to look at the front of this train. This is my front. And if I look very carefully, I can see that it's 2 inches wide. And I want to see how tall this is. And how tall this is right here between these two arrows, 0.875. So that's where I'm going to start off. So I'm going to start off with a new rectangle. And there we go. And my new rectangle is going to be 2. I'm going to hit Tab, and I'm going to type in 0.875. So there is my rectangle. I'm going to finish my sketch. I'm going to go to my home view, and now I'm going to extrude that rectangle. Now I'm going to actually take this backwards. I'm going to actually take it backwards. And how far is that rectangle? Well, I'm looking right here at this view. How far back? And it's going to go back 5.5. So I'm going to actually leave it at negative 5.5 because it's going to go backwards. There we go. So there's my body. The next thing I want to look at with this train is I see that I have this round shape in the front. So we're going to draw that shape next. So I'm going to put a new sketch right on the front of my body. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a line, and I want to make sure I use a construction line. I'm going to come right over the middle of this block, and I can see that I have that little triangle. That means the midpoint. I'm going to draw a line straight up, and we'll hit OK. I want to get out of construction mode right away. I'm now going to draw a circle on that line. Doesn't matter how big it is. We're going to actually dimension in a second. So if I look at this picture, it says I have a radius here of 0.75, but I have a diameter for my full circle. So I'm going to go dimension here. I'm actually going to type in my radius, which is 0.75, and I'm going to hit *2. I'm going to double it, and that's going to make my diameter. Next, if I look very carefully, from the center of that circle down to this bottom line is right over here, 1.375. So I want to dimension that. So from the center of my circle down here, 1.375. There we go. I'm going to trim out some of the stuff I don't need. So I'm going to trim out that bottom circle. And then to close this shape up, I need to make a line from that endpoint over to that endpoint. I'm going to finish my sketch, go to my isometric view. I'm going to hit extrude. I'm going to pick that shape, and I want to take that backwards. So let's look at our picture. Well, I don't see any dimensions on how long this is. What I do see is my whole dimension is 5.5, and I do see that this cab piece is 0.75. So I subtract those two numbers out. I'm going to find out how long this is. So I'm going to know, I'm going to come over here, my dimension, and I'm going to type in minus 5.5. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 1.75. And that's going to give me the length of that cylinder. All right, so let's go put the cab on. So we're going to look at the back of this right now. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to look at the back of this. And if you notice when I'm looking at the back, here's where my picture, now that I inversed, is now looking good. So I'm going to do a new sketch right in this back face. What I see is I see this big arc here. So what I need to do is I need to put a couple lines in to start with. So I'm going to make a line from that corner straight up. Doesn't really matter how far. I'm going to do the same thing on the other corner from here straight up. What I'm going to do now is if I look carefully, this arc, it's telling me over 1 inch and up 0.375. So here's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to make a circle. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to make this big circle. And I'm going to dimension from the center of that circle down to this bottom edge. That's 0.375. From the center of the circle over to one of the two edges, it doesn't matter which one, they're both the same, is going to be 1 inch. If I look at my picture, it says radius 2.35, but I have a circle. So I'm going to dimension this circle. I'm going to do just what I did in the front, 0.235 times 2. There we go. Now I'm going to trim out what I don't need. So I'm going to trim out. I don't need the rest of that circle, and I don't need the rest of those two lines. I'm going to, just to make sure, I'm going to make a line from that corner over to this corner. And I'm going to finish my sketch. And let's look at a little different view. So now I'm going to extrude that shape. Well, I want to extrude it all the way back to this piece right here. So instead of distance, I'm going to say to object. I'm going to select the back end of this. And it puts my cab in. Nice. All right, I still have one more thing that I'm going to do in the back. If I look very carefully, I have this little hole. And again, this hole is over 1. It's going to go up 0.375, and then it tells me how big and how deep that hole is. That hole is 0.25 diameter and 0.5 deep. So let's come back up here while we're in the back. We'll make a new sketch on the back. Let's make a circle. And let's dimension that circle. So from the center of that circle down to here, 0.375. Now, the reason I have created driven dimension is you look, I have that little geometric constraint that tells me this circle and that big other circle I had are concentric. So these numbers should be the same. So if I dimension from here to this edge, that should be 1 inch and it should say driven. So yes, it is, right? I do have to dimension the size of it. And we said that was 0.25. So I'm going to type in 0.25. I'm going to finish that sketch. I'm going to hit extrude that circle. And let's look at a different angle here. And that has to go back in 0.5. So let's make it go in 0.5. Okay, there we go. All right, let's go back to our home view. I don't need this canvas anymore, so I'm going to come down here, and that was the second canvas put in. I'm not going to delete it. I'm just going to suppress it and kind of hide it, right, just to get it out of my way. So let's see what we have next. We have this side here that we got to put a hole in. So we have right here this side. We have two holes down here, and they have hole notes, so they must have threads on them. And then we have a hole up here for the smokestack and 3 holes in the center, in the front. So let's put this hole in the back. So if I look very carefully at this, we'll see that the center of this hole is indented 0.25. It's going up from the bottom 1.75, and it has a radius of 0.5. So let's see what we can do here. Let's do a new sketch on the side. Let's make a circle. We'll slide this over, make a circle somewhere right around here, and we'll put some of those dimensions in. So from the center here to this edge, we said was 0.25. From the center of the circle to the bottom, we said was 1.75. And we said the diameter was 0.5, or we said the radius was 0.5. So again, we're going to double that. Okay, I'm going to go back and I'm just going to check my dimensions. 0.25, 1.75, and 0.5, but that's the radius, so we doubled that. So we are looking good. All right. Now, we have a little flat piece up here. So if I go back and I look at that circle, you might see it, but there's a little flat piece up here. We're indents. So we got to put those in. I'm going to show you the easiest way to put those in. So let's look at our circle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make 2 lines. One line right here. And I'm going to make another line down here below the circle. I'm going to use one of my geometric constraints. I'm going to use tangent. I'm going to click on that line. I'm going to click on that circle. I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom. Click on the line, click on the circle. Okay, puts a tangent there. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to trim out a couple little things. I don't need that edge. I don't need that edge. We're going to trim out this, and we're going to trim out these. I'm also going to trim out the inner parts of those circles. All right, so now you can see that I have that little flat piece there. Whoop, I don't want to undo. I want to undo that. And I have this little flat piece up there. What I need to do is close this in. So I'm going to make another line from that edge to that edge. I'm going to finish this sketch. I'm going to hit extrude. I'm going to grab that shape and I'm going to cut it all the way through. Okay. So I can say all. Next, I think we're going to put the two holes in the sides here. So let's zoom in. You can see that I have a threaded hole because it gives me that threaded note 1/4 -20 UNC. It's going all the way through and it says 2X, which means there's two of them. So here's one hole, here's the other hole. Let's look. These holes go up 0.5. The first hole is in 1 inch and the second hole is in 0.4 or 4.5. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to hole note. And we're going to zoom in on our train and we're going to put a hole right there. And I'm going to hit select. I'm going to select this back edge and that is 0.5. I'm not going to hit enter. This is going to be real quick. Don't hit enter. I'm going to select again. I'm going to select this back edge and actually that is 0.5 and the other one actually is 1 inch. We're going to switch that to 1. Now we know that's a 1/4 inch. So we're going to come down here and we're going to have that 0.25. We know it's threaded, so we need to make sure we hit tapped. And when we do, you're going to see there's that note, 1/4 20 UNC. Okay, there's that note. For distance, we want to make sure that it goes all the way through. Now, down here is this little tab or little button called modeled. If I don't click this, what you're going to see is you're going to see a picture of a thread. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually select that. And then I'm going to hit OK. Now, if I zoom in very carefully, you will actually see, and if I touch it, you'll see the threads that are in that hole. Okay, so there's one hole. Let's make another hole. So we're going to make another hole right down here. I'm going to hit select. I'm going to grab that back edge, and that is 4.5. I'm not going to hit enter. That's going to be, you're going to want to do that. I'm going to hit select. I'm going to select this bottom edge, and that's going to be 0.5. Okay. Now, if you happen to hit enter, you can come right back down here, right click on that hole, and edit the feature. So let's do that. We're going to leave it tapped. We're going to leave it at 1/4. And actually, so we need to make this 1/4. And it says 0.28. We need to change this size right here. We'll come up here to this one, make it 1/4. There we go. We'll change this size instead of this one. 1/4. And so we got 1/4 20 UNC. We're going to make sure we have it modeled. We want it to go all the way through. So for our distance, let's hit all. And then we'll hit OK. And we come down here and you can see very carefully that I have those threads in there. Those are real threads, so I could actually put a screw through there. All right, we got a couple more holes. We have one up here on the top and a couple in the front. So let's put the one up on the top. So I need a hole here, but I can't put, if I go to sketch, it won't let me put a sketch on this round object. So what I need to do is come up to construct. And I need a tangent plane. And I'm going to select the top of that round surface. And you can see that it puts a plane up there. Now what I can do is I can go to my sketch plane and I can click on that construction plane. And it puts it right up here so I can see it. The first thing is I need to be able to grab from these edges. So just in case, I'm going to go over to create. I'm going to scroll down to project and then over to project. And I'm going to grab that line right there. I'm going to put that line on my sketch. So if I look at it, you can see that I brought that line and I put it right up here on my sketch. So let's go back and look at our top. Spin this around. So what we need to do is let's see how big our hole is. So if we look at our picture, well, from the front of our round object to the center of our hole is 0.875. It's going to be right in the middle, and that hole is 0.5 diameter and 0.25 deep. So let's do that. Let's look at our top. I'm going to make a line. I'm going to make a construction line, and I'm going to grab the center of this and bring it straight up. I'm going to get out of my construction mode. This time I'm going to make a circle. I'm going to put my circle right on that line somewhere. What I can do is I can dimension that circle. And it's 0.875, I believe. Let's see. Now that looks a little big. So let's go back and look at our picture. 0.5. Okay, 0.875 is from the front. So let's go and change this to 0.5. All right, let's look at the top so you can see what I'm dimensioning. We'll dimension from the center of that to the front of this, and that's going to be 0.875. There we go. I'm going to finish my sketch. I'm going to go into my isometric mode, and now I'm going to go extrude. I'm going to grab that hole, and I'm going to bring that down, and it says 0.25. So let's cut it in, 0.25. There we go. There's our hole. The last thing we have is we have these 3 holes in the center, okay, in the very front of our object. So let's look at our front. Let's do a new sketch on our front. So we have 2 holes down here, kind of lined up from the bottom, and they're 1.25 from the bottom. We have 1 hole here that's up 0.625, and that's right in the middle. So let's do that one first. So I'm going to make a line. Again, I'm going to go to construction. Come down here. I see my little yellow triangle. I'm going to bring a line straight up here. Doesn't matter how big it is. Get out of construction mode. Let's make a circle. And I don't want to grab the midpoint of that line, so I don't want to make sure there's no triangle. So I'm just going to come up here and make my circle. If I dimension that circle, all right, it tells me right here, ooh, I have a whole bunch of these circles. They're 0.125 diameter, 0.125 deep. All right, so I have 3 of them. They're all the same. So dimension, 0.125. Okay, this is right in the center. So how far up does this go? Well, we said it goes up 0.625. So let's dimension that. So from the center of that circle down to the bottom, 0.625. All right, let's put our other 2 holes in. I'm just going to put them anywhere. I'm going to put a hole here, put a hole here. I'm going to go up and use one of my constraints. I'm going to use horizontal and vertical. I want to make sure these 2 are lined up. Okay, so they're both going to be vertical. So if we look at our picture, 0.125 from the bottom up to these 2 holes. So let's dimension that. From that bottom down to here, 0.125. Okay, notice how both holes, because I put that constraint in, both those holes go. If you're not sure, you could always dimension down here. It's going to tell you 0.125 is a driven. So we're good. We know the dimension for both these is going to be the same as this one up here. So it's going to be 0.125. Dimension for this one, 0.125. Now I'm going to figure out where these holes go left and right. So let's look at this first one. So this first hole comes over 0.375 from the edge. So from this edge to the center of that, 0.375. Okay, we have one more dimension, this hole right here, and that's this one right here. So if we look, that one comes over 1.625 from the same edge. So from this edge to the center, 1.625. We're going to finish our sketch. We're going to hit extrude. We're going to grab our 3 little circles, and be careful, we just grab the circles. I'm going to isometric mode, and they go back, and the distance was 0.125, so we're going to cut them back 0.125. All right, there we go. Now for me, blue, I can leave this blue, but I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to my wheel, my color wheel, or I can come down here and modify, grab my appearance wheel. I'm going to hit Fusion Appearance. I'm going to come down here to where it says Paint, Glossy, and I'm going to make my train body red. So I'm going to slide my red on top of it, and I'm going to hit Close. Last thing is I'll probably just take this and I'll right click on it, and I'm going to suppress it, and there's my train body, all my holes, and ready to go. So hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button.